Do you remember your last major PeopleSoft upgrade? How can you forget, right? We have scars from those. Hopefully it was a while ago. I mean, hopefully your application is current, but hopefully it's been a while since your last major upgrade. Wait, how does that make any sense? How can you stay current and have it be a while since your last major upgrade? Well, with continuous delivery, we don't really upgrade anymore, right? We just apply regularly scheduled maintenance, right? What? No? Why not? The most common reason I hear for outdated systems is too many customizations to retrofit. And if that's your situation, I hope you're considering PeopleSoft's modern configuration alternatives, such as page and field configurator, drop zones, and event mapping. But there's another reason customers don't apply maintenance, and this reason gets a lot less attention, but it seems to be more common. And that is user testing, end user testing. To test, we have to pull resources from productive departments. Now, manual testing is expensive, and that's where automated testing fits in. PeopleSoft Test Framework, or PTF. We call it the PeopleSoft Test Framework, but the underlying engine is really browser automation. Theoretically, the larger your test library, the more we can automate, and the lower your test cost. Have you used PTF? It's kind of an interesting tool with its recorder and playback. The playback essentially takes over the local workstation. What that means is each workstation can only run one test at a time. So logically, the faster your tests run, the more tests you can complete, and the shorter your testing window, and hopefully the less your testing cost, and the faster you get current and stay current. So what can you do to speed up tests? I want to share a few tricks with you. And each trick has its own risk, so I'll be sure to share the risk, and then you decide if it's worth the reward. Our first performance gain comes from our browser. It's our experience that Firefox provides the most consistent playback, but playback speeds seem environmental. For example, I've seen Firefox tests take 15 minutes, whereas the same test in Chrome took 2 minutes. Now, others, based on environmental issues and configuration, the same test will only take 2 minutes for them. So tip number 1, resolve any environmental issues or change browsers. Now, if you change browsers, what's the risk there? The Chrome Selenium driver wasn't likely tested with your PeopleTools release. We discussed that in a prior episode. Chrome drivers change with each release of Chrome, so it's up to us to download the latest Chrome driver. And that brings me to the next performance improvement. Clean up your driver directory. PTF will try each driver until it finds a match. So here, I'm currently using Chrome 85. Chrome 86 happens to be the latest Chrome driver available. I don't need all these other drivers, so I'm just going to move them. Take them out of the directory. The fewer drivers, the faster PTF launches. Now, the risk here is that you may delete a driver that someone else is using. Since Chrome is always current, I think that risk is small, but hey, it's there, so I want you to be aware of it. Okay, here's another trick. When you record navigation, here, let's log into a PeopleSoft instance. When you record navigation, this is navigation, right? Click on the nav bar, Navigator. Click on whatever it is you want to visit, PeopleTools, Security, User Profiles. Okay, as you're using the PTF test recorder, remember a recorder, it records your clicks, doesn't it? PTF is going to record every one of those clicks. But today, PTF is smart enough to replace those with what we call a page prompt step. So it'll recognize that, hey, you meant to go here and do a direct page prompt. So we can speed up by using page prompt. I mean, think about every link you click in the nav bar on the way to your target. Should the test play back all of those clicks or just go directly to the target? So page prompt is your secret weapon here. It's also way more stable. But we'll save that for another discussion. And when PTF records that page prompt step, you may notice that it sets the URL type to portal. Here, let's take a look. So our URL type equals portal. So what is that? Well, if we look at the URL here, you'll see there's PSP in our URL. That means it includes all of the header here. You know what's in the header? Your notifications. Those notifications come in through a separate AJAX request. We've got the nav bar here. That's going to load content. We have the actions menu. more content. Every single item here requires the server to perform more steps, therefore requiring our page to take longer to load. So the next tip is to switch to content. So what's that going to do? When the test plays back, it'll play back with the content servlet, PSC, rather than the portal servlet, PSP. So the question you need to ask is, do we need all of that other information? Do we need the information that's in the header when we are running our test? I mean, for example, if we're not using navigation from the navigator in the nav bar, then if the test is to visit one component and then to visit another component, and we're using page prompt for both of those component switches, do we need the header? If we're not testing to see what's in the notifications, if we're not testing the actions list, if we're not testing the home button, do we need the header? We find that tests run markedly faster with content rather than portal in the test case. And if you're recording a fluid test, absolutely make sure it's set to content, not portal. See, when I return home, notice that the URL switches back to PSC rather than PSP. In fact, if you were to hit, and I can mock this up here, because if I had portal set, but I was navigating to the component using page prompt known for NUI framework.ptlandingpage.gbl, if I were to hit that with PSP, you'll watch the URL redirects to PSC. So it actually slows down your test, of course, when you're using portal with fluid, because the server is going to send down a redirect command so that the browser actually has to make 2 requests to get to the content. So content is your friend. Now what's the risk with using this one? There really isn't much risk. PeopleSoft content was designed to run without the header, but if your test needs anything from the header, such as clicking the navbar or actions menu, well, those items won't be there. Okay, and finally, this one is very controversial. Search pages. Search pages take time. Now, when you run a test, here, let me just mock up what the test would do, because, waiting for tests, sometimes it can be a little slower. So when you navigate, this would be page prompt. When you run a test, the very first thing the test is going to do is switch into advanced search mode. That's going to take a fraction of a second or a second. Then it's going to put in the user ID. Here, let's try R. Channing. Then it's going to hit the search button, and then it's going to load the content. So each of those, let's see, page prompt. Okay, need that one anyway. Hit the advanced search page. Okay, you're waiting. Enter some data. Okay, you're waiting. Click the OK button. Okay, you are waiting. In the PTF recorder, it doesn't just snap the data right in there. It pauses for a second too, just to make sure the page is loaded. So you're looking at seconds there of time spent waiting. Here's the controversial one. This one will save you a ton of time, but it's a bit on the controversial side. Okay, here. So we see, if we look at our test case, we have page prompt. Okay, that's the navigation step. We fixed it up. We made it faster by going with content with a mode of update. And then right here we see text set value, A. Smith. Okay, here. Let's do this. I want to, let's just go with it. A. Smith, I'm going to comment this one out. I'm going to comment out the page prompt as well. And here, in my page prompt, I'm going to put the search criteria right here, the level 0 search keys right in the URL. Oper ID equals, and let's go with the one we just tested, R. Channing. R. Channing. That way it's totally different from the values that are in the test case. R. Channing. So I've disabled these 2 steps. And what does the rest of the test do? Well, the rest of the test checks to see, hey, is the account locked? If it is, then unlock it. Let's uncomment the save so that we can run this multiple times without it actually saving the data. Let's test it out. Let's see how it runs. And if you want to, because these tests log the start time and the end time, and they log different times throughout the test, you can actually benchmark these to see how the performance is going. All right, let's wait. So we're signed in here. Page prompt okay, so we don't have any clicking through the navigation. No header there, so that loaded up a little bit faster. Did you see the search page? Did you see see us land on the search page? I didn't. We didn't land on the search page. It bypassed the search page. And how long did this test take? Let's see, 424. It took 20 seconds. 20 seconds for this test to run. That's pretty fast. I think we've optimized it about as far as we can. You know what? If you have other optimization tips, pause here on the screen. If you have other ideas, things we could do to optimize, let us know. Tell us what they are. Okay, now here's the downside of this one. This is what I don't like about this solution. Our values are now in the recognition rather than the value column. Here's the problem with that. Test cases are based on the value column. So one series of test steps can be repeated against a variety of different values using test cases. But can we fix that? Can we bring the recognition into the value column? Can we do that? Here, let me show you a trick. Insert step above. Let's use a variable. So I'll use a variable step here. Variable, set value. And here, let's go with ampersand oper ID for our variable. And recognition, oper ID, and value, R Channing. You know what? Let's try somebody totally different. Okay, let's try it out. Let's see if he did that right. Okay, wait, Chrome's almost there. Now, Chrome still tried a couple of drivers. Remember, there were a couple drivers in our directory there, had 85 and 86. Okay, we're logged in. We're going to go direct to the transaction, bypassing the search page. Awesome. Look at that. We now have taken advantage of the value column, so we have our test cases, and we very much optimized this test to where it's now running in, what was that, 33 to 54? Yeah, 20 seconds, 22 seconds about. That's pretty good. We've saved ourselves a lot of time. Okay, but we have one more thing to think about. See, everything we've done here has been very controversial. And even the end result, even though we found ways to work around them, there's still some controversy. What is that? It's about what are we testing? You see, PTF, as it records your clicks, it's implicitly testing a lot of different functionality. For example, click through the navigation. You know what you're implicitly testing? Navigation. Now, it's very brittle testing navigation that way. And we can talk about that another time. I'll save that for another session. But the question is, do you really want to test navigation? Or are you testing the target component? See, I think most of the times what we should be testing is, well, if it's configuration, let's say that we've gone into configuration, we should be, perhaps we chose to hide a field. Okay, we should write a test. Test that. Is the field still hidden? Do you need to implicitly test navigation all the way there? Do you need to test row level security within the search page? I don't know. That's what makes it controversial, and those are the things you have to work out. But my thought is test the things you intend to test. Test the things that matter. Test the core functionality. Can you process payroll after an update? That's important, isn't it? And test your customizations and configurations. Do they still work? That's the most important stuff. So it really comes down to, are you comfortable with the risk? I think so. So what do you think? Do you have tips to reduce test runtime? Or what are your opinions? Some ideas here are a bit controversial, so I'm curious. What do you think? At JSM Pros, we believe PTF is one of the top 3 most important, most valuable PeopleTools technologies to learn, which is why we teach PTF several times per year. So be sure to check out our website to see when we're offering it next. Or here's an idea, subscribe to our LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter feeds to receive updates every time we post a course. Or do you have a team that wants to learn PTF? Give us a call. Let's get something scheduled. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.